ALGS チャンピオンシップの3日目となりまして、中間地点になりました。皆様こんにちは。 ALGS の3日目です。本日はエリミネーションマッチが行われまして、選手たちにはもう後がありません。今勝利しないといけませんです。ぜひお見逃しなく ALGS チャンピオンシップをお楽しみください。Hello everyone and welcome to day 3 of the ALGS Championship. We have arrived at the halfway point and now we enter into the deadly round 1 elimination matches where teams will be fighting for survival in the ultimate showdown. With all that and more to come, stay tuned as the Snowflakes of Sapporo as well as Titans of Apex fall here on Elimination Day.
Not only will snowflakes be falling in Sapporo, but 10 teams will be falling and their dreams of moving on to hoist the trophy will end. 10 teams will continue on their journey though and make it into elimination round 2 after we see our winners final coming up tomorrow. Welcome to, yes, the most deadly day as introduced by our lovely host Ryan Hart of the ALGS so far, and we bring you back to the desk to say hello and let's get it started. My name is Randy, I'm your host. I am joined by a wonderful eclectic panel of pros, analysts, and developers this time. Snipe Down, Jamerson, and Jay Beebs joining us. I'm going to go down the line here, Snipe. The fact that we get to see now the action take a turn up to 11 where teams are going home, it changes the whole dynamic. No more group stage, no more just passing by. It's either win or you're out of here.
Yeah, I mean, the group stages are where storylines are built. It's where the narratives are there. It's where you start to see what teams are really performing and what not. But there's nothing more exciting and dramatic than when the elimination stages start. This is where the drama is. This is where hearts are broken. And this is where people are going to move on and champions can be made.
Jamerson, I kind of want to shift a little bit to day 2. We talked about some stories. What stood out to you? We saw Noctim jump out ahead. We were not expecting that. A lot of underdogs that maybe didn't take the marquee position coming into the tournament have certainly stolen it after two games of play.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things that come out of day number 2 was that we didn't see a heavy favorite coming out. We saw a lot of teams rising to the challenge, and I think that's the overall narrative I want to really drive forward when it comes to champs here. It's been very even across the board, across all of our groups. We don't have a standout favorite like we have in past lands. It looks very even, and it does seem like when it comes to the final day, it can be anyone's day.
I feel like it's strange for Apex Legends fans of the sport for so long to not have a clear favorite. We have TSM for so long. We had Dark Zero for so long. We thought it would be Falcons, but then this year, it's been APAC North, EMEA, and North America who have hoisted the trophy. Now we're in Japan, and we have no idea what's going on, which leads me to someone who's been able to be behind the scenes most of the time doing the work. Now you can kind of chill out a little bit and watch the show. Jay Beebs, Respawn developer, helping put Apex together. Kind of what's been your takeaway, man? It's been exciting to see what you guys have implemented, especially even E-District now showing up in the highest and most important tournament of the year.
Yeah, I mean, we're really excited to get E-District into the rotation and debut here in Japan. I mean, that map was definitely designed with competitive in mind, and to see the amount of teams that can be supported in endgames and have different sort of combat that's different from what we've seen with World's Edge or Stormpoint, I mean, it's just been awesome.
I mean, watching from the stands, which is what you kind of want to do. You're here, you're soaking it up. A lot of it is in Japanese. So I want to know, what have you picked up on while being able to watch? I know you don't have headphones in listening to us most of the time. You're running around. What's been the takeaway after 2 days of competition being here in Sapporo?
I mean, the support meta is fully realized. We're seeing more squads than ever surviving till endgame. Obviously, a lot of util. It's been pretty interesting to watch, like, teams juggling both technically in gunfights with shotguns, obviously, but also just managing utility with Gibraltar and Newcastle, rampart walls and whatnot. So like something we've never seen before, I guess, in ALGS.
You know, it feels like, I don't know why this is coming to me, but somebody who would be a good accountant managing all the little things would probably be really good in this meta, because you got to get the timings right exactly. Half a second is going to be the difference in you surviving and going on or being eliminated in this afternoon. But let's talk a little bit about yesterday and how we got here by bringing up the stories of day 2. It was the highest qualifying number of points we've ever had in the ALGS, but it's also one of those things that set us up because we have a support meta that is giving us more revives than ever. 152 compared to 134, I believe, in Split 2. And that also leads to a lot more opportunities for teams to, if it goes wrong, bounce back and have a chance to be a congested in-game, which we've seen tons of.
Yeah, I think one thing that the biggest difference is that it's a lot more forgiving in the sense of getting the reses, getting the respawns, getting the mobile respawn beacons when you get the knocks and the banners. That's something that, at the beginning of the game to now is one of the biggest differences. You got punished more when the game first launched. Yeah. You weren't able to get the reses. Now it's like you can actually take more risks because of the ability to res your teammates so quickly. If you know it's an isolated fight, instead of having to grab the banners, run across the map, you immediately get the respawn beacon, you immediately res your teammates. And it has changed the game, and a lot of people think just because it's a support meta, it's not as aggressive. But the reses and the revives is kind of showing the opposite of that at the same time, that you're able to do that because of the ability to reset, and the more reses, the more fights that is also happening.
A great showcase of kind of the themes happening throughout it. Also, Shotgun's heavily involved in this meta, Jamerson. But Series 1, Series 2, we saw Noctim bounce out. Although there were a lot of other performances from Cloud9s, from Virtus Pros, from Gaming Gladiators, from Aurora, that really kind of set the stage for this eclectic opportunity we've got where no one is technically the favorite yet.
Yeah, again, we had standout favorites or really big resurgences, right? Last time in day number 2, Icholos Lasers was one of the teams that we were really looking forward to because they were a dark horse name. Yeah. Now we've got our own here, and so I'm really glad that we were able to have a pretty big shift in the meta to really see where teams would stand at the end of the day. And I think this big shift in the meta has really equaled the playing field. And right now, we're reaping the benefits of it. We're being more introduced to more teams. APAC North is really shining here. So I'm really glad that here on the global stage, we do get to have a spotlight on basically every team around the world.
Team Liquid, Alienware got a win. ExoClan also got a win. You can see K-Swinney popping off right there, trying to make sure Feud and Slayers are also in the mix, and those guys are a fun bunch as well. I mean, we saw Meteor perform in day 1. They're going to be playing here. Crazy Raccoon started to pop off. Our winners essentially 2 out of 3, Obley and St. June from Split 2 or Split 1 in Los Angeles. And then, of course, Furia, a team you can almost never count out. Shopify Rebellion, our most recent winners in Mannheim. Don showing the energy, shaking the camera, and saying, that's right, that's what we came here to do. The happy part of the bracket, we've started to call it, are winners finals. These are going to be players going into a rest day today, so they will not play this afternoon. It's a good spot to be, and it's well earned as well. Green Stego, our last qualifier, and then of course that leads us over into the not so happy version of this bracket. The teams that from now on, every single game is an elimination game. That is an unfortunate part if you don't get it done early, but that is where they are. From Envy to Stallions all the way down to Supernova, all of these numbers reset. It is a new game, it is a new day, 8 games as well, J. Beebs, so competition a little bit more extended. I mean, that's gotta help these teams who, in this moment, maybe playing off pure adrenaline, maybe pure fear, maybe pure hope to finally, keep going on in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, every time I come out to one of these events, I'm just like blown away with the tests throughout the weekend to just perform at your highest level every day, especially in meta like this where util management is so important. So I'm just excited to see how it evolves. I mean, think from the moment Fnatic won the first game in group stages, I was like, this is going to be special.
One of the things I always want to talk, now that we have you here as well, is how does this impact from a development side, you guys taking these changes or these impacts of the Pro League into consideration for upcoming changes into Apex? What do you glean from being able to watch in person, to see the players' reactions, have conversations with Snipe and Jamerson and Graceful? We try to keep you away from Graceful because we know he'll never let you go. We know Graceful will never let him go. But how does that impact you now making decisions heading into the next seasons?
I mean, yeah, we relish this opportunity as devs. I mean, me and Eric, who's the BR systems lead,
big Eric,
will just be discussing how legends influence weapon meta and kind of interesting ways to play off of that. And just, I mean, I know that players have their own thoughts around support meta. It's been a polarizing change, but just know as a live service game, like, we're really looking to make swings. So what you're seeing now on the main stage, I guarantee it's going to be different in a few months.
Ooh, all right. It's going to be different in a few months. We'll have to wait and see what that looks like. All right, Jamerson, pulling it back to today, we've obviously got a bracket filled with teams, that are haven't really got themselves into the position where they're firing on all cylinders. What do you change going into a day like this? Because confidence, it could be low coming in, but also you now know exactly what you need to do. It's not mystifying anymore. You just got to put together 8 good games and keep making it out. That's all you can do.
Yeah, one of the craziest things is I would say if you're in the top 4 of this group, of the lower bracket,
Envy,
round number
VK,
1, you're
right.
looking at Envy, Stallions, VKG, and Oblivion, right? Because their performance at the group stage would have typically
That's
had
true.
them move on. So they did do everything right, but we have completely different standards here in what happened in Champs. Back in Split 2 playoffs, the cutoff was at 89 points. This time around, it's 109. That's a 20-point swing in performance overall, and that does really come down to basically no one dominating any of their groups. If you look at the top 5 teams in the winners brackets right now, throughout Split 2 playoffs, we had 846 points by the top 5 teams out of group stages. Here at Champs, our top 5 teams had 774 points.
Yeah, okay, that
so
makes
that's
a lot of sense.
70-point swing
Right.
in terms of like monopolization of points at the top. And
Right.
so that got spread out, especially amongst the the bottom 10 in our winners bracket, and that lifted up the ceiling a lot.
And it shows the parity of the competition right now. Everyone is on an equal playing field more so than ever. We haven't had repeat winners at LAN. We haven't had dynasties reborn. We have had this kind of year 4 that has left things open. In many ways, it's the most exciting, freshest version of a championship that we've ever had in ALGS history. Snipe, I want to go to you on the team that you've got your eye on. We mentioned it just before. Envy, I mean, almost did everything right. You could have said maybe they did do everything right, just the wrong tournament to not get into winners.
Yeah, and I want to give a huge shout out to Envy. Hastro played under your banner, won tournaments, one of my favorite organizations I've ever been on, so happy to be casting and talking about one of your teams again. But yeah, this Envy team online, they were the 4th overall in total points per game, averaging around 7.2. And on this tournament, this just goes to show you the online and LAN is just so incredibly different because every one of the maps that they were good at has flipped. They were averaging 7.3 points on E-District, 8.6 on Storm Point. It's down to 3.8, 4.2. Yet World's Edge has now become their best, getting 8.3 when they were averaging less than 6. So it's curious to see if that's just an adjustment based on the playstyles at this tournament. But this team, I mean, they've been phenomenal. They've built the chemistry. Dropped and Noct have been together for a very long time. This team was right there in the threshold. We talked about how they've had enough points in basically any other tournament to make it, just not this one. And I really think it's going to come down to something even Beeb said with this meta. This meta is so heavy on communication based on when you're going to use the utility. The shields, the bubbles, the walls, the ults. If you use 2 of those at the same time, you lost the fight. It really does come down to who has the best communication. And I'd be curious to listen in on some of the comms to see the top teams that are performing versus the ones that are kind of on the threshold to see if they are really on point of the utility.
It's going to be interesting to see how those 2 veterans, remember Optic Gaming prior, 2 of those members now on Envy, were just a game away from having a chance to actually win a playoffs. Obviously stifled by NRG, then TSM did their thing and won back-to-back-to-back. But it's still one of those conversations that lets you know they were close. You look at Lufka and these conversations that's happening in winners, 1 fight away with Gashera from being able to actually win a playoff. And that is where the decisions become so minor but so impactful, Snipe, and that's what you're mentioning here with the timing of it. Jamerson, I know that you have wanted to talk about this team for a minute. They're now in the elimination bracket. It is the time for them to perform. It's VK Gaming.
Yeah, VK Gaming, when we were in Mannheim for Split 2 playoffs, they were able to actually bypass the first lower bracket and make their way into the winners bracket with, I believe, a point total of 102. So their performance here hasn't changed that much. You know, it's not that much of a swing. They ended up with 94 points overall here. And as you can see, they did kind of sneak by in Series 1. They got better along the way. I think, getting the land jitters out of the way for sure as we moved on. They did better in their 2nd series and their 3rd series overall. They were just a very consistent team that are able to really secure their spots in the top 5, top 7s. They get those placement points and, of course, the KP that comes along the way. And they're able to sneak in some wins here or there. And so this is a team that plays extremely consistently. The problem, again, is that the ceiling has been raised. So, 94 points in playoffs, in Split 2 playoffs, that would have seen them move on to into winners. This time around is just not enough. So they are still consistent, and I believe that they're going to be able to survive today, move on to the lower bracket 2, and hopefully make their way into the finals lobby.
I mean, you look at those games, and when you truly see it, kills coming through very, very strong from VK Gaming. It's about placements because they could put a stellar game in, and this could be a team to watch out. in our elimination round 1 coming up in just a few moments. Stormpoint, World's Edge, and then E-District, a team that on E-District, Jamerson, has dominated probably 1.5 times the amount of points across that versus Stormpoint.
Yeah, we got to see that as well with Noctum Gaming, right? E-District seems to be kind of the factor that came in and shook up a lot of, I think, what's going on in the overall meta, right?
Yeah.
A lot of teams, of course, are playing the support meta. Very few teams are straying away from that. But in terms of that kind of preparation, you throw in the unknown factor of E-District, where teams just don't have the same kind of preparation, right? We've been playing World's Edge for 5 years now, 6 years now, along with Stormpoint for the last 4 or so. So everyone's kind of already figured out how they want to play that one. But E-District throws in a completely new factor.
Yeah, I think with that on top of it, you look at Noctum, who won back-to-back E-District games, and that could also be a huge reason why the scoreboard is much more tight-knit. We're not playing the same maps that we've done. We're kind of reset the meta. We're all figuring it out, and we have arguably the closest tournament we have had to date at this event, in what better time?
I would actually want to know, JB, before we let you go, what is your favorite map to watch competitively at this point? E-District coming in, is it?
Definitely World's Edge. No,
World's Edge?
No, E-District. I mean, I'm just happy to see a new map being played by the pros, right? I think as Apex evolves and matures as a game, I think we have to be diligent about keeping things fresh and continuing to test the pro scene. And I think part of being a pro is being able to adapt, both just tactically in the game space, but also strategically with different legend comps, different maps. Like that's a huge part of being an Apex pro.
I could not agree with you more. I think there are going to be a lot of changes in any esport over the course of 4, 5, 8, 10 years, and the ones who can adjust are going to be the ones that last, the ones that are successful. So a great point there. I think another team that has had to adjust in different ways to a roster they've had before, didn't have, and now have again is NRG. Finding them in this type of position, guys, it's not about experience. It's not about skill. We know the talent that is there. You look at Nocturnal, Fun, and Gilderson's top-tier players, Hodsick, top-tier coach, since almost the inception of Apex Legends. Snipe, why have things not clicked the way they would have wanted?
I think if this tournament does not end up going anywhere near their favor, some questions need to be asked about potentially the duo of Nock and Fun, because they have made it with
kind of the only
repetitive
question.
third. Yeah, I mean, Guild has been on this roster before. They had success. Then they had Reptar, and he ended up being kind of a scapegoat on that roster. People were talking about the damage numbers. Now Guild is back. We know how good he is, and they're still underperforming. They're still not doing as well. So it's not the rotation of players at this point. It seems like there's something else going on, whether it could be mentals. I've heard a lot of things in the background from other events. We've had them be public about certain things affecting them.
Yep.
There's a lot there, but this team is way too good with the players on this roster, with their history, to be underperforming, especially with past results already being prevalent for us to go off of.
I will say, though, historically, when it comes to a very zone-oriented lobby, that's where NRG do tend to struggle the most, where they don't have as much space in the center zone, right? Right now, we have 17, 18 teams rushing to try and find God spot or a decent playable spot in a lot of these maps, but Nocturnal now has a lot more friction in that way. We're seeing some adjustments coming out from them. On E-District, we're seeing them trying to play a little bit more of the anti-rotate or negative rotate styles and try to delay their rotate in for Zone 3, Zone 4. But I don't think that adjustment has worked out for them quite yet. This is going to be one of the toughest struggles for Nocturnal in his career.
We don't drive the narratives here. We kind of ride them through as the teams help to let us know what they are in the mix for. Some finding it emotionally tough to move through these days. Some already on a high waiting in winner's bracket. These teams right here have the added pressure of, unfortunately, knowing that if they don't get it right this time, they're going home. Let's take a look at our talent predictions and see what the crew behind the scenes and in front of the camera thinks about who will perform today. I'll talk a little bit about mine and Dia's right now. Stallions is a team with a lot of energy, and I think you look being in a top 4 position, maybe already qualifying off the points that they had. I think they had 94 points. I think Envy had 96. The ability to ride that moment for Albrelelli and to see that succeed, I have a feeling that this could be their day. But of course, Snipe Down, you're winning currently overall. This is pretty impressive. You're going Envy as well. You already talked a little bit about why you feel confident, but you must think they're going to have a good one.
Yeah, I got to back my boys in blue. Like I said, they've been performing online. Dropped has historically made almost every single finals. I don't see them not performing in this lobby, at least a top 5. And I'm gonna, I'm in first place, so I'm gonna keep accruing as many points as I can. Can't let Reddit beat me either.
Well, Reddit, we'll see if you can go ahead and join Snipe Down with a nice win. I'm trying to catch up, so I'm throwing a couple picks out there. that may not be picked by all the rest of the talent. But if you want to check it out, whether your pick is doing well, I know the perfect place for you to spend your time. Of course, it's Face It Watch. And here's the cool thing about Face It. There's actually multi-view available, but also on mobile. So you can use Face It on your mobile devices. You can claim free drops, you can watch chat, you can change your POV, and of course, like I always say, you can Apex your way. Your comms, your rotations, the teams that you care about. Check out Face It. And hey, if you have a Chromecast, I was one of the first guys that had a Chromecast. I bought my father-in-law a Chromecast. I love that thing. You could use it there. So faceit.com/watch is where you need to go. All right, guys, it's about time. The stage is set. J. Beeps, thanks for joining us. Well, I'm sure he'll be in the crowd, so you guys can say hi to him if you run around in Sapporo. And, of course, Jamerson and Snipe. We'll see how these predictions go. We got 3 games coming up, and we got 2 guys ready to call the action. Dan, Mark, take it away.
Let's do it. Let's get into it. It is day 3 here in Sapporo. We've been waiting for these moments because we're kind of the bad guys, where we get to send people home today. Actually, we're really excited to see who is going to manage to progress, who's going to continue their tournament here today. But it feels like everything has stepped up a little bit today. The pressure has started to step up. Everybody has played some games, have got those games under their belt, and now it's about performing, Dan.
Yeah, now you've got to step up. You've got to show what you're made of. I think you had the chance last night to do the POI draft. Anything that went wrong in the previous groups, you had to try and rectify that and look at what POIs are you actually going to benefit the most from. Where can you gather the most points? We're going to be starting on E-District. 3 times of E-District before twice on Storm Point and then 3 times on World's Edge. Now, I was questioning the draft a little bit. I spoke to Raven. They got first pick on the draft. They went for Storm Point. I think that's okay because they really want to prioritize the Trident. But there were a few teams that I think weren't too sure how the map layout was going, and that's on them. Has to be said, that information was available. So are they going to maybe rue that day that they didn't get an early pick on E-District?
Well, here is your map rotation. You can see, like Dan has just said, we've got 3 Storm Point in a row.
No, we don't.
No, we
ignore that. It's going to be E-District to start us off.
Yeah, no, I'm only joking. You just explained it's going to be E-District to start us off today. We've got 3 in a row to kick us off and becoming somewhat of the E-District specialists here in Sapporo. Dan, E-District seems to be where we're doing most of our calling, and to be honest with you, I'm pretty happy with it. J. Beebs on the desk was saying it's his favourite map to watch. It's something new, it's something fresh, and for the teams, it's something they're going to have to adapt to, and I think adaptability at this point, the questions have to be asked, have you done it? Because there's not much time to kind of sort those kinks out. You've got to get the job done here. You've got to get it done now.
So E-District to start, and this is the POI draft. And you can see not many teams focus on E-District very early. Actually, the first pick that came in was by Meteor down at Resort, or up at Resort, whichever way you want to say it. FaZe Clan came in second with a pick of Heights, Dragons taking Lotus, GHS taking Humbert Labs, which actually, it's GHS's best performing POI so far this tournament is Humbert Labs. So I guess if they're going to find any points today, it might be on E-District.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a pretty smart pick, just going by the correlation of where we saw a lot of end games yesterday. We did see a fair few Humbert Labs endings, even moving a little bit to the left of Humbert Labs and kind of between Energy Bank and so. And it feels like the southern side of the map, there was some decent population when it came to those end zones, and Humbert Labs is one of those places where if it does pull that way and you're there early, you can secure one of those best spots for that end game.
Yeah, I'm expecting that a few of these teams will be starting to play E-District a little bit differently as they've seen how it plays on LAN, because you have to remember, this is the first time we've seen this map in a competitive LAN environment. We'll take a look at the actual map rotation. Apologies for the previous, I believe that might have been the winner's bracket, but here we are. This is the elimination bracket. 3 E-District, then 2 Storm Point, then 3 World's Edge. So instead of the 6 matches we were playing previous, we now play 8 here in the bracket stage, and that's exciting for me because we have seen some teams struggle a little bit in the opening few matches, but then they start to pick up in 4, 5, 6, but they don't quite get over the line. Well, now you have 2 extra matches to find points. So if you are a slow starter, you might benefit from this.
Yeah, I do enjoy the fact that those last 2 games are always a lot of fun to watch as well. When we really get down to the teams who are desperate to get points, who need points, who will do anything to get points just to keep themselves in the tournament. And of course, make it through to tomorrow, to Saturday, and have a chance at still making it to Sunday for those match point finals. Well, as you can see here in Sapporo, by the way, the seats are filling up, and there is so much support out here in Japan for the teams. I mean, we've seen people from all around the world. We've spoken to people from all around the world who have flown in to be part of the ALGS Championship, and that is the passion you can expect. We haven't even fired a bullet yet.
And obviously a lot of support for APAC North. That is expected, but you'd be surprised how many fans I've spoke to that are actually huge TSM fans, for example. Very excited to see them play when they get there in the winners bracket. Of course, they won't be competing today in the elimination bracket. But I am excited to see how these teams do in elimination, because I think that's when pressure really starts to kick in now. Are you going to be fighting? Are you going to be in one of those scenarios where you have a bit of flight as well? Because some squads do struggle with the pressure.
Well, before we get this first game underway, we've got a little thing to show you soon, and it's something to do with some of the wonderful people in the crowd. I was talking about how there's going to be so much passion here, Dan, and there's so many fans who travel across the globe. You know, there's people from Europe, there's people from North America. Of course, I was queuing up for some ramen the other day. 2 hours, by the way, it took us to get the ramen. Worth every second, I will say. It was absolutely unbelievable. But there was a couple of guys that I met from Australia, New Zealand, who had flown in. It really has been a worldwide representation of some of the awesome fans who are here. I mean, what's the furthest you've heard people coming from?
Probably me. I think I've come pretty far.
That's
like
fair.
a 17-hour time difference. But what is strange is hearing like Australians, New Zealand, and thinking, you know, usually they've travelled a long way. Hasn't really been that far for them.
It's not. Well, Lace actually caught up with a couple of fans, and speaking of travelling to events, they travel to every single event. So Lace, show us what you've got.
I am Lace here in the fan zone, and I have two wonderful fans that have actually found each other through Apex. I have Jordan, I have Mark. Now, Jordan, why don't you tell us a little bit how you two met through Apex?
Yeah, so I full sent it on my own to Copperbox Year 3, Split 1. And I was stood in the line and we were all chatting, and then I ended up speaking to Mark, and yeah, we got to know each other really, really well. And then we ended up going to Split 2, and then Champs, and then Germany, and now we're here in Japan.
Now you're here together in Japan. Now, how do you feel like your friendship has blossomed so far?
Yeah, it's amazing. We pretty much just play Apex together. The reason why we met and the reason why we're still friends, pretty much. So yeah, play Apex.
Yeah, you guys are a majority of a team. Now, what has been your favourite part so far about the event?
It's definitely the fans. The fans is crazy. You know, this is our 5th LAN together that we've been to, and yeah, seeing the fans, everybody's so happy. Like the first game with Fnatic winning, you know, it's poetic.
It is the electrifying energy from the fans. And what has been your favourite booth in this arena so far?
Booth, I think, yeah, the 1v1s. Seeing the 1v1s.
Oh, look, 1v1. That's great stuff. So these are two fans at Apex. Thank you so much, guys, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.
Awesome stuff. Fans from around the globe who met thanks to Apex Legends and continue to build their story. And speaking of which, it's time for us to start watching some teams continue their story here in Sapporo. It's match 1 of our elimination bracket, and today we send people home.
This is where it starts to get serious for all of these squads. You've had your time to warm up. You've had your time to get a feel of how the lobbies are going to go, how the POIs are going to affect your performance, and now you need to lock in. Now, we mentioned GHS Professional dropping at Humble Labs. As I alluded to earlier, this is their best performing POI, which, I mean, it sounds good, but I think they only got 7 points from it in one game. It's not an incredible POI for them, but at least it's something to start them off a little bit hot here.
We're trying to look at where the zone is going to be going. We'll get that beacon information pretty soon, so we can give you an indication of what to expect, a little bit of foreshadowing onto where this end game will be taking place. But I mentioned before we got the games underway today, Dan, it's a different feel in the building today. Yesterday, you know, you saw a lot of the players and teams still fairly jovial in the way that they were kind of having fun and kind of enjoying and talking about, you know, Sapporo, everything it has to offer, some of the games that they'd have. But today, it seems like it's strictly business.
It would be an insane story for Meteor as well, with the journey that they've had, competing in the very kind of tier 2, tier 3 series of Apex Legends, and now finding themselves on the main stage of the championships here in the ALGS. And yes, they find themselves in the elimination bracket, but they had a great showing in group stages, and I think they'll be very proud. But now they need to learn everything they have from those previous days and put it into action. As in terms of zone, we are going to be heading down south. I mean, you asked and you will receive. Mark Onset Hatcher.
Yeah, that Humber Labs pick seems pretty good now. We're actually heading just south of Draft Point, so as anywhere on E-District, still a lot of buildings to be played. It's where that shift goes. What side of that big bridge are we going to be ending up, or is it going to pull a little bit back further towards the north of Draft Point? Of course, we'll only find out thanks to time passing. Draft Point does have, however, a beacon to give them some ring console information, and DSG are already going to be heading to where they believe the end game is. You can see that on your map overhead. GHS Professional going to be joining them, and LG, pretty close behind them as well. August and Hungary always almost there as well, and I think it's a little bit of a change that we've seen from them as well. Yesterday they were a little bit slow on some of their rotates, but they are straight in the money here, straight in center zone.
Yeah, the evac towers were dropped and everyone moved as fast as possible. LG is an interesting one as well, isn't it? I mean, maybe wouldn't expect them to be in this position, but at the same time, you think back to Split 2 playoffs, they did exactly the same thing. They struggled in group stages, went to Elim round 1, and then they suddenly played out of their minds in, especially Storm Point is actually where they really picked up most of their points. So if they can, you know, find a few points, a good average here on E-District going into Storm Point, maybe LG will be one of the names at the top of the leaderboards when we get to those maps.
Yeah, really interesting to see actually, just looking at who could potentially and where could potentially be played for third beacon information here. And just outside of the zone that we see on our screen for that zone, you can see that Viaduct, that's got Ring Console, Humbert Labs, Ring Console as well. So real options for teams on how they want to rotate here without kind of committing to center zone early. If they're arriving a little bit later, you can already see it's getting pretty congested in there. If you want to wait, bide your time, then even Shipyard Arcade, you can head towards there as well. And you know, there's a plenty of options for you to play for those later zone calls.
I think Shipyard might be a popular destination for some of the late arrivals just because it's open right now and does give you that option for the Ring Console. But at the same time, then your rotation in after you've hit that Ring Console, if it doesn't pull your way, it could be a difficult one indeed. But of course, with the meta being how it is, with the ability to drop down Newcastle walls, ramp up walls as well, you can just build a base anywhere and make something out of nothing. It has been incredible to watch over these last couple of days. Now, VKG, they were mentioned on the desk a little bit. They did perform excellently yesterday, but just couldn't quite get over that point threshold, which was much higher than we're used to seeing. It was around like 90 points in previous tournaments, but we were above 100 here at the ALGS Championship in Japan.
It's funny when there's a couple of extra bodies that redrop onto the map, a few extra kills. Just makes everything different. And I think maybe even the teams were looking when they were getting towards the end of the group stages yesterday and thinking, wait, the point total that maybe we were thinking would get us into the better side of the bracket, it's not quite where we thought it was. VK Gaming, one of those teams unfortunately who didn't quite get enough points to push them into that winner's side of our bracket. We did see a little poke at Envy there, and Envy are going back to their rotation. They're going to be going down towards Humbert Labs. FaZe Clan are there at the moment, but elsewhere you can see the bridge where we expect a lot of action to be taking place on our screen. And Supernova currently chilling, maybe trying to protect the beacon we were talking about earlier, Viaduct.
Might catch Shadow 36 off guard here if they do try and plan a rotation down on that southwest, but we've seen it a lot during this event. A lot of teams kind of ratting out, looking to try and pick up kills, looking to try and catch people off guard. For the most part, it's been successful. A very frustrating thing to be on the receiving end of. So you really have to almost expect players to be around any corner, check every single nook and cranny sometimes, and almost send someone in as a little bit of a scout.
Well, here's the Burger Boys, Team Burger. Pricey having to expend that bubble to retreat to his two teammates of White and Sharky, and they seem like they're going to change their approach to this zone, understandably so.
It was quite the journey yesterday watching Team Burger on E-District, wasn't it? It just seemed like they couldn't get out of the zone, and then the next thing we look at them and they're suddenly dead center of the circle. They were really tried and tested when it came to their rotations.
At the moment, it's all about just taking some height over at Neon Square, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Perfectly safe. No need to worry about anything too much. It's an interesting zone, actually. We did see it on the overhead. I would say of all of the zones, maybe that we've seen in some of our previous E-District games, this one doesn't have as many playable spaces when it comes to buildings and things like that, kind of the obvious place that you want to try and pick up, right? Because there's quite a lot of open ground down on the low ground where you have the kind of, I don't want to call it a river, we'll call it the drainage system.
Yeah, that works.
I'll work on that and I'll come back to you. But you can see what I mean, right? You've got that watery area that doesn't have a huge amount of buildings within it.
And it's not fun to get caught in those kind of playable areas as well. You can be absolutely bullied from those who are on high ground watching, and all it takes is you bubbling at the wrong time and Gibraltar Ultimate comes down and you are obliterated. Zone is going to continue to transition toward the center. It is more, I guess, on the southwest of that circle, so for the teams who are on the northern side, they're going to have to shift a little bit. Great news, though, for FaZe Clan. We spoke about Shipyard Arcade. You get Ring Console information, and they can continue to stay there for the next Ring Console as well. So that's brilliant for them.
They also spotted the rat that was coming from Supernova around the round zone, and luckily didn't get caught off guard. So they're doing a good job of making sure that anyone who tries to wrap behind them at Shipyard Arcade, maybe trying to play for that beacon themselves, that they're paying enough attention that they don't think about changing their approach from ring console to potentially reses and crafters to try and get the banners and get back in the game.
Speaking of changing approach, Ninjas in Pajamas opting to go for Rampart today rather than Catalyst that we were playing previous as well. I wonder whether that's going to fare them a little bit better. Of course, you're going to get the option to set up those walls and be far more comfortable. Now, Envy, the team who had first pick in this POI draft, and a team who was very much expected to be in that winner's bracket, find themselves in the elimination, and they find themselves with a nice little place to call home here in the southeast.
Yeah, perfectly safe inside this next zone. They do also have, as you can see, that third beacon information, so they're going to know that it's going to be shifting across to the other side. We do have a little temporary pause for a tech issue. We'll get back into the game as soon as we can, but I think it's quite an interesting, like I mentioned, opportunity for us to talk about this zone in particular, because in comparison to some of the other zones where we've seen on E-District a lot of talk, if you're watching E-District for the first time but you're not, fresh to Apex Legends, the Skyhook zone is the comparative one, right? Because there's so many layers of the building. It's not just kind of a single story, but Sykes, relax, by the way. Man's locked. Oh, everyone's staring at us right now. Okay. Getting the fans going. Okay, continue everyone. But that Skyhook kind of narrative we've been telling about some of these POIs and how there's so many different levels of buildings, not just the buildings themselves. This one feels a bit different.
Do you know what is fun is we can talk about the zone in pauses. We can't usually do that. So of course our audio not going out to the fans. It is the Japanese broadcast that is going out to the fans here in Sapporo, as it quite rightly should be. But that means I don't have to whisper and hope that the player doesn't have their headset off and they can listen to what we're saying. But yeah, this is going to be a tough zone for anyone who went in early and is on the northern side. I mean, Ninjas in Pajamas in particular, they were on the north, and it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for them. But the crowd literally erupting every time we see an APAC North player, by the way, on our screens. And I love it. The support is insane here.
You've only got to imagine what it's going to be like tomorrow and Sunday as well. I mean, we've got headsets on here, and we can just hear screams of encouragement. And there are the awesome fans. This place is getting fuller and fuller by the second. It is loud in here, trust me.
I went backstage to the fan zone yesterday, and Fnatic were doing essentially, it wasn't a meet and greet, it was more like a press conference, it felt like. And the amount of people just sat there, any space to be there. It didn't matter if you were sat on the floor, if you were stood up, you just found something to do and somewhere to be so that you could watch and be a part of that press conference with Fnatic. It was awesome. The fan zone has been amazing here. Plenty to do back there, and of course, loads of sponsors, and you've got all of the teams there selling their apparel and all sorts. But as this match is a little bit paused, we're waiting to see what happens here. We're just getting some nice shots of all these players.
Well, one thing to look forward to, of course, is not just the Apex Legends. We've got a lot of entertainment, shall we say, that's coming up over the next few days to understandably kind of give it that champs feel, Dan. We've got a Create Showdown plans. Might be playing in that. Don't want to leak too much, but I might be. That's a win on the main stage.
Well, I might be playing in that as well.
Are you playing in it?
I think I might be, yeah.
Are you on my team?
Well, I think it starts
Oh,
with
no, you
solos.
won't be on my team because you were complaining earlier. By the way, in the green room, I kind of caught Graceful and Dan having a little, like, under-the-breath conversation. They were both kind of, the piercing... when you're the subject of someone else talking about you, the piercing glances across the room at you, and then as soon as you catch her, they look away and kind of hide away. And they go, God, this guy, I'd like to play more ranked with him, but he tilts so much.
I didn't say that, by the way. Grace
didn't
said
no.
that.
I'm just going to say, by the way.
Disagree with him.
That's the point. You had the opportunity to step up and protect your duo.
Yeah.
Did you?
No.
No? Why?
Because he was spitting facts. You do tilt a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah, but I tilt because I have passion.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. It's not a problem.
Look,
just pointing.
I said it to you earlier, and I'll say the same thing that I said when I caught you having this conversation, which is get on my level.
Yep.
Step it up. Lock in.
Well, we'll see what happens in the Creator Showdown.
I am going to absolutely obliterate you.
I do love a good obliteration. Maybe we'll be on the same team when it does come to teams.
Oh, no, we're not allowed. I don't want to tilt.
Yeah.
I don't want to upset you by tilting. Inverted commas.
It's one thing the players won't want to do on the main stage as well, because we have seen it. Some players, I've seen a lot of angry players when things start to go wrong, and it's about staying calm.
I feel like you're giving me some sort of therapy here. I'm actually listening to you and I'm going, wait, there's actually some truth in this. I've seen some incredible signs, by the way, through the weekend.
Yep.
My favourite one, personally.
Go on then.
TSM sign, held upside down. Close. Close. Can't argue with it though, you know.
It's still a TSM sign, so he's
It's a
still
TSM
showing his
sign?
support, just upside down.
Or is it MST? Maybe they're like a secret fan of another team. They're trying to disguise it. Yeah, who knows?
Everyone waiting with bated breath for this one to continue. It's a very different vibe. I remember back in LA, we had a pause and everyone booed. And it was quite funny, to be honest.
Yeah.
But here, everyone just patiently waits. Because,
North America, everyone's respectful here.
Yeah, it's just, everyone's so polite. There's Nasky. I actually was able to chat to him in the elevator of all places. Actually, our conversation got cut short because he left. He tried to carry on and then the door closed.
He just saw you were in the elevator and started hitting every button to try and get out again as you were kind of patrolling the doors.
I mentioned it, they've switched their compositions. They are going to be playing Rampart on 2 of the 3 maps, which is what they were not doing before. Maybe that will help them just be able to reposition a little bit better, find those builder base opportunities and not get caught out as much, because they don't really want to be finding themselves in this elimination bracket, but alas, here they are. You have to make do.
Good to see them staying hydrated as well.
I actually love the ALGS mugs that they have.
I was trying to think of, that's not a mug, is it?
It's like, well, I don't want to say the brand
Yeah, I don't want
name.
to say the brand, but you know what it is.
Yeah, a cup. Sounds like manly.
Look at those manly cups that they're all holding. Absolute blokes, all of them. What's been your favourite moment so far, Dan? We'll get back into this game as soon as we can, everyone. By the way, this is a little bit of an extended pause. We want to make sure, of course, today that everything technically, audio-wise, insert another thing that could go wrong, is right on our main stage. So bear with us.
Fnatic's victory to start the tournament was a particular highlight. I think that will live as a memory because it was just almost like written in the stars that it was going to happen. But I was looking across the statistics coming into this one, and actually I think Snipedown pointed out on the desk as well, a few teams that were really performing to a standard that, you know, you'd expect in online scrims. They were getting so many points left, right and center, but then when they got to land, those points were almost halved. And I think that really does show that the scrims that we have, we always have to take them with a grain of